All right, here we go. Today we have Daniel Andre Green, who's currently serving life in prison for the murder of James R. Jordan Sr., the father of basketball legend Michael Jordan. Okay, so let's go ahead and start from the beginning. So you spent a lot of time in Lumberton, North Carolina.
Yeah, actually, I was, so let me just tell you, in 1993, which was about a month before Mr. Jordan's murder happened, I moved to Lumberton, actually outside of Lumberton. So I really don't have a lot of experience with Lumberton. I wasn't familiar with Lumberton. My family is from a rural area called Roland, North Carolina. So I grew up in Roland, North Carolina, and Philadelphia. Most of the two places I lived at.
Okay. And you were primarily raised by your grandmother?
With my grandmother, with my great-grandmother and my mother.
Okay. And Larry Demery, who's Native American white, you guys have known each other since you were 3 years old?
Yes, we've known each other since third grade, right?
Okay. So here you are in high school, and you're planning on going to college, and there was a fight that happened in 1990. You want to tell me about that?
Yeah, well, so are you talking about the Robert Ellison incident?
The one with the axe handle.
Okay, so, yeah, it's 1990. Actually, I have known Robert Ellison and two other guys that were involved, James Blue and Bobby Reed, for a while. And I had, like, when I was younger, they were the ones that used to beat up everybody, so they were the alphas. When I moved away, I started boxing. I boxed for a couple of years when I came back, and they tried to, I guess reassert their dominance. I defended myself and I beat two of them. Robert Ellison he wasn't even the main guy that I had issues. Robert was actually a pretty good guy. He had been adopted, and I think he had some issues at home and in the community. He had like a bad reputation because Robert is bigger than everybody else, and he was a couple of years older than me. So you're talking about somebody that's at the time is like 17 years old, probably maybe about 230 pounds. So, a lot of people were scared of him. And like I said, he was accused of doing some things like shooting up people's houses and things like that. So Robert, he wanted me to cut his hair, and I cut his hair, and I accidentally, didn't. It wasn't a good job. So the other two guys, provoked him and instigated him so that he would try to fight me because they couldn't beat me, because like I said, by then I had started boxing. So we shot it, and later on, like they all jumped me at one of the guys' house. So when they jumped me, I finally got away, but they worked me over pretty good for about 10 minutes. When I got away, I went to this girl's house, which was from Pennsylvania. And they called down there and said they were coming down there and they were going to jump me again. And so when I left the house, man, like they jumped me, so I had to run. I didn't want to run, but, I'm not a runner. But I had to run, so I jumped out the window and went to her house. And so I was like, you know what, I'm not running. I'm not running from these guys. I said, if they come and let them come, I'm not going to run. So when they came down there, Robert, he had a silver butterfly knife. And he pulled the knife out and started, flipping it around and making motions as if he was going to cut me. So I'm like, listen, bro, put the knife down. If you want to fight, you can fight. He wouldn't put the knife down. So I picked up an axe. I was backing up, and there was an axe on the porch. Like, this is in the country, in a rural area. There's wood, on the porch. I guess they burning wood for heat or whatever. So I picked up the first thing I got my hands on, which was the axe. And this is all in the testimony. Like, if you go back and look at the transcript from when Judge Gregory Weeks vacated this conviction, he overturned his conviction in 1995. And Johnson Britt, who was the district attorney, dismissed the charges. According to all other witnesses, this is what I'm telling you. I'm not telling you my version. I'm telling you their version. He pulled out the knife, and like I said, he was coming towards me, making motions, and I'm started taking the axe, and I'm swinging the axe in front of me, trying to keep him at bay. And I'm like, listen, man, just leave me alone. So he's advancing, and he's saying, hit me, Daniel. Well, as this axe is swinging from side to side, he's trying to jump in between like the arc of the swing of the axe, and he missed time to jump and hit him in the head. It wasn't the sharp end, but it was the dull end, but it was heavy enough that it severely injured him. So I went in the house, trying to call 911. I'm at somebody else's house, and I had just moved back to this area. So I didn't even realize that they didn't even have 911 in this area. So I had to go home to my grandmother's house, find the phone book, find the sheriff's department phone number. I called them. They came down. What happened? I told them what happened. They said, "Oh, well, you don't have nothing to worry about." It's like, sound like it was an accident that happened in self-defense. But Robert's dad was, justifiably, he was upset. And they ended up arresting me. They took me to a juvenile center where I stayed there for a while. I was released. And when I was released, the conditions of my bail was that I could not be in that area because the family, I guess they was, upset, and they were worried that there would be some problems, some retaliation. So that was when I moved away from that area, pending trial. I did get convicted of that trial. Actually, I pled guilty, and this is the thing. I don't know if you ever heard of a case in North Carolina about 10 years ago, maybe, about it was students from the Duke lacrosse team. There was a lady that accused them of rape. They were vindicated of charges. Well, my attorney, she went to that prosecutor office. So when she told me to plead guilty to me, she told me and about 30 or 40 other juveniles to plead guilty. But at that time, she had already accepted a job as a prosecutor. So basically, she was just trying to clear her calendar so that she can go ahead on, with her career. But it was totally unethical. I mean, she shouldn't have done it. Yeah, but that's just something that's been used against me, and I just want to say, that was not. And if you look at the transcript, if you look at the record, this was a conviction that was vacated. When I was arrested for this charge, they put in the newspaper that I had just gotten out of prison for armed robbery. That's what the Jordans were told, and that wasn't true. It wasn't anything to do with any money. It wasn't anything that was malicious. It was an accident that happened.
Okay. Well, you end up getting 2.5 years for this particular incident, and ultimately the charges were vacated and overturned.
Right.
Okay. And I guess during this time, the only person who really stayed in contact with you was your childhood friend, Larry Demery.
Yeah, he was the only guy. I had females are better at that type of thing. So I had had a number of female friends, that knew me, that were writing. But as far as guys, he was the only one that I ever received a letter from.
Okay. So you and Larry end up reconnecting later on, and at one point he started living with you.
That's true. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So leading up to the incident with Michael Jordan's father, based on the trial that happened, they're saying that you and Larry were involved in at least 2 other armed robberies that summer.
Okay. Well, so we was actually involved in one armed robbery together. It was 2 couples that were from Rhode Island. And, it's not something that was planned. We went out to this hotel looking for this guy that we did some work for, which was catching chickens. So down here in North Carolina, that's a huge industry, is the Purdue. It was Purdue. As a matter of fact, one of our governors, she's a Purdue. So, we went to this chicken house, and he was like, listen, man, do you want to make some extra money? I'm like, cool. So we go, and we're supposed to be catching chickens for $500. So we're supposed to get $500 to go catch chickens. I'm 18 years old, just got out of prison. I have a job. It's a minimum wage job. I said, hey, man, I go catch chickens. When I got out there, it kind of felt like I was catching slaves. They would take the chickens off the ground and put them in an ice tray type of thing. So I ended up leaving early. So I never got paid. I'm like, man, I'm not gonna do this anymore. I'm not with this. I'm out of here. So because I ended up leaving early, neither of us ended up getting paid. We were supposed to get paid the following week. Well, when we went to the place that we were supposed to be getting paid, which was like the Rolling Motel, which is in Rolling, North Carolina. And this is the story that you hear me telling the police about when they first started interrogating me. I was actually giving them that, just pretty much lying to them because I didn't know who I was talking to. I didn't know if they was the real police or dirty police. So we go to this hotel, and they were like, listen, he's down at the south of the border, and they're down there getting high, so you can catch him down there. Well, we go down there, and they're in a hotel room, tripping, getting high, and told us to come back. So we went to the south of the border, where we met some females. They ended up playing a role in my trial, Melinda Moore and Dolores Sullivan. We met them. We went back to the hotel, and the guy was gone. So, this is the 4th of July. It's like the 3rd of July. So we were supposed to have the money to go down to the beach. And then Larry owed these people the money that he was moving drugs for. He had been caught stealing drugs several times. So once these people leave, he's like, man, damn, this is a waste of time. These people playing games. He said, I'm going to rob the very next people that I see come out. So I'm like, all right. But I'm thinking he's bull. I've never seen him do anything like that. I've never done anything like that before in my life. So I'm just thinking he's just talking, man. He's just upset or just, being boisterous. Because we're young, right? And I just got out of prison, so, that's what, guys do. Well, when people came out, that's what he did. He pulled a pistol out, which he didn't have the pistol for the robbery. The pistol was supposed to be for protection in case these people try to trip over the money that was owed to us. Because it was under the table work, and these people are, everybody's involved in drugs, moving drugs. Matter of fact, that's what one of the things that they were doing out there at the chicken plant, that they was transporting the drugs in the chicken. That's how keys of cocaine started being called birds. I don't know if you remember that back in the day, but they used to call a key of cocaine a bird. That's how it started, because it would transport drugs through the chicken thing. So I was talking to the people, and there was a lady, and she was like, listen, I have a ring, give me my ring. So I gave her her ring back, and he pulled the gun out. He was just, bitch, I'm going to shoot you in the head. I'm like, man, let's go. So, he, was trying to get more stuff. So I kind of grabbed the gun, and I bounced, I started running. So I grabbed the gun from him, and I started running. So once I took the gun from him and started running, he followed behind me. That was the only crime that we committed together, besides me helping, to cover up what happened to Mr. Jordan. All right, so, and I just want to say, so with regards to that robbery, man, like I said, it's not something that was planned out. And, of course I felt like a piece of shit, because this lady sitting there talking to me, she's looking at me. And so she's like, look, I'm looking at your eyes. For some reason, she kept saying, look at your eyes. She said, you don't even want to be here. She's like, why are you doing this? She said, why are you even doing this? And I'm like, man, just give them the money and we'll leave. And, I'm going to send the money back. I don't know if that's a natural thing that people just pick up people do. But I'm like, okay, we can get this money, and when we, we're going to send this money back. But yeah, so that was the robbery that we did, man. And then there was another guy that was robbed, that I was accused of robbing. His name is Demery. And if you go look at the trial transcript, he's on the stand saying several times emphatically, I can't say this guy. He said, they all look alike. All the black guys look alike. He said, I can't swear that that's him. I can't swear that's him. I don't know if that's him or not, basically. So he didn't. What happened was that when I got locked up, it was all over the news. Larry and I believe somebody else robbed this guy. Well, the other guy does look like me. I actually know the guy. We do, independently. Other people told the police, yeah, these guys look alike. But, that's not one that I was involved in.
Okay. So then the night of the incident, July 23rd, 1993, you and Larry were at a cookout the night before.
Yeah, we were there the 22nd.
Okay. All right. So I guess you and Larry left around 1:30 a.m. and Larry said that he had to go handle some business. Okay, so go ahead and walk me through what happened the night before.
Okay, and I'm going to send you to the exhibits to support what I'm saying. All right, so we was at one of my mom's friend's house. This is my mom's oldest friend. Her name is Kay Hernandez. Kay, she's like married. She's Lumbee Indian. She married a Hernandez, but she's Lumbee. And my mom at the time, that's what she was saying that because Kay, she had been ill. She had constantly been ill over the years. But my mom was one of the people that was, basically they just chilling like their best friends. So they, spent a lot of time staying at her house. So we were over there, and one of Kay's daughters, Nellie, it was either her birthday or something, but her and her husband, like they were going to like Puerto Rico that Saturday, I think, or that Friday. So before they flew out, Kay said, okay, since Nellie's going to be gone, we're going to go ahead and just do something right now. So I was just cooking or whatever. So they were supposed to be cooking inside. Something happened with the stove or crock pot got broken or something. I don't know. I don't even remember exactly what happened. But she sent us to go back to where we were staying at, which is really my mom's trailer, but it was pretty much like me and Larry was just, like we were pretty much the only ones living there. So she sent us there to go get something, whatever, the grill, whatever it was. We, left Kay's house probably about maybe 8 or 9 o'clock somewhere. We, ended up going to Larry's house first, or we go to my house first, and then we go to Larry's house. And when we get to Larry's house, Larry calls his cousin. Her name is Janine Baculin. This is who the FBI talked to before they talked to us. So we was arrested on August the 14th, on August the 15th, that Sunday. That's when the FBI talked to her because, Larry called her from his mom's phone. They had the phone records. They knew that on the 22nd of July, which is hours before Mr. Jordan was probably murdered, that he called up there. So they go talk to her. And, apparently, man, they already had some type of investigation going on because they knew to question her or to elicit information from her about Larry bringing drugs up there. So Larry called her and said, listen, I'm going to come up to New York, to Huntington Park, New York, and I'm bringing something to his cousin. There's some drugs. He said, I have to go pick up one of my friends. He's from Georgia. Okay. And Daniel's also coming with us. So she was like, okay, well, they can't stay a long time, but y'all can come and, whatever. And she's going to tell Larry's cousin, which is her brother, Joey. In the trial transcript, it reads as Joy because it's a different accent down in Robinson County. So if you're not familiar with it, you're going to misunderstand a lot of what's being said. So he's making a call because he knows that he has to go up there. He's supposed to drop off this car that's supposed to have drugs inside of it. Once he dropped it off, then they're going to go in there, I guess, chop it up or whatever, get the drugs from the interior of the car, and do whatever they're going to do. So this is something that he does like on the regular. He had been doing it for people when he had started stealing, well, I can't even say how much, but he had started getting high. And they pretty much let him do it, and then sprung it on him like, okay, man, we know that you can get high, you can take it out. You ain't really got to worry about it, but you got to do a couple of trips for like free. You got to do some things that we tell you to do for like free, because he's trying to make his bones in this organization, right? And this organization has police protection, like it's plugged all the way in. So, because of the type of job that he had, he was driving like escort cars to drive in front of trailers. Like when they move trailers, there's a car or a truck that's going in front of it that has a sign on it that says like wide load. And that's to let people, I guess, on the road know that there's something coming behind them. So that was his job. But the whole time they're using that infrastructure to actually traffic drugs. That's pretty much the way it was back then. So when he calls his cousin, he's setting this up, and this is before James Jordan has even left Wilmington. Like, so it's not like he knew that James Jordan was going to be out there. He knew that. There's nothing like that. It was nothing like that. There was no plan like to go rob anybody. That was something that him and the police came up with sometime before my trial. He was going out there to move drugs, and this organization that he belongs to include like Sheriff's son and some other people that's kind of like prominent people. So when he comes back to Kay's house, or when me and him both go back to Kay's house, it's like shortly after 10 o'clock maybe. when we get there, they've already started, cooking out, eating or whatever, you know what I'm saying? So we, grab a plate. Me, Larry, Kay's daughter's friends, and Kay's daughter and Kay's little cousin, which is Bobby Joe. She's the lady that's in the picture, the young lady that's in my lap in the picture that was taken that night. We're all in one room. Then the adults, like, the older people, I was 18, but, we still like kids to them. They were like in a separate room. So we just, watching videos and making videos. And, me and Bobby Joe, we've seen each other like maybe once or twice before, but we didn't know each other. So that was the first time we started talking. We realized we had chemistry. So somebody was like, that when y'all was kids, that y'all used to play together. Like, we was really kids, I guess like 2 or 3 or 4, something. I don't even remember this, but that's what somebody was saying. So they was like, that's probably why y'all so drawn to each other. So you got to keep in mind, I had just gotten out of prison like a month prior. She was a pretty girl. So you know what I'm thinking about, bro. I mean, it's obvious. So we started, we started kissing, and Larry was like, okay, look, man, like, let's go. It's time to go. And by then, it was maybe 12 o'clock, maybe a little bit before, a little bit after. Like, I can't tell you the exact time. But, after 2 or 3 times of him coming in and interrupting us kissing and making out, he realizes, I'm like, man, I'm not going, bro. I didn't really want to go anyway because I didn't, like, he was supposed to be going all the way. Like, it's different to go, me and him to go to South Carolina together, right? Because that's right across the border, which is less than like a mile or 2 or 20, 30 miles, depending on where you at in Robinson County. But you talk about going up to New York in a car that has drugs in it. And I didn't really want to go, but I told him that I would go because, that's my man. I felt obligated to go with him, just to watch his back. Because there had been some threats that had been made against his family, against him, which means that's the same thing as threatening my family because we're kind of like all moving in the same circle. And his family, to be honest, I felt like his family was my family at that time. So when he leaves, he left maybe about 1:30. I can't tell you exactly what time it is, but it was somewhere around there. And me and Bobby Joe continued, we continue making out, but there's a video, and I don't know what the video was that, but we believe that the police have it. So Larry comes back about maybe 4:30, maybe a little bit, later, could possibly like a little bit earlier. And when he comes back, he's knocking on the door. Somebody goes to answer the door. It wasn't me. I think it could have been Monica. I'm not sure. So when Larry comes in the house, he's, he's acting very nervous. He has a scratch on his face. So I'm like, damn, bro, what's up? Basically the first thing you asked me, he woke up like, look, man, what time is it? So he's like, listen, man, such and such happened. And she's looking, cause my mom had came into the room and she's like irate. She's like, listen, if y'all gonna go to sleep, go to sleep. Like, y'all shouldn't be up. I don't even know if she even knew, what was really going on, except for, Larry, why you come back, at this house, which is not her house, at this time of morning. So y'all can either go in and go to sleep or y'all can leave. So we go outside to talk, and that's when he tells me that he shot this guy. So listen, man, went out there to meet, this guy. He said Godfather stood him up. He wasn't in place. Godfather was the guy from Georgia that was supposed to go. So he says, such and such, this guy pretty much, he had stood me up. So I had to go out there because you got them left me out there, as far as just kind of left me hanging. He said, so I had to go out there, and this dude tried some funny shit. He tried me, and I ended up having to shoot him. So to be honest with you, I thought he was lying. I didn't even believe him. I thought it was okay, this is a practical joke. Can we do that? We've been doing that since we were kids, elaborate practical jokes. And I had never seen him scared before. Except for, when he had problems with his father. But other than that, I never seen him scared. So we get in the car and we go out to the hotel, which is the Quality Inn Hotel, which was near, it's about maybe 100 yards, less than 100 yards from the intersection of 95 and 74, which is where they're saying that he was murdered at. When we get out there, there's an abandoned store beside the hotel. And I don't know how much detail you want me to go into with this, but, beside this store, there's a car. It's a red Lexus. So we get out of his car. We get into the Lexus. He's driving. He pulls right around the store, drives closer to the hotel. And it's an area that has bushes, and there's pictures of this on file of this area. So they knew, somebody told them, because it wasn't me, because I never told the police anything about that. So somebody, had to be Larry, told them exactly what had happened because there were pictures that were taken. There were bushes maybe a ditch or a canal, like an indentation in that area, and there was a body there. So we get out the car, and he goes back to his car. He gets a quilt or blanket type of material out of his trunk. Basically we take the body, put it on the blanket, and then we move the body.
Okay, so when you go out to this field and you see this dead body, how do you react?
Well, at first I'm like, damn, like this motherfucker ain't lying. And I know from what he told me, I knew that like this is the worst possible place because this hotel is like, I don't want to use the word mob. I don't know what you would call it, but it's their territory. People that, like I said, this is the sheriff, or I'm gonna put it this way, this is from what he's telling me. This is the sheriff and the police, and like they use this area as like a drop-off point and as a distribution point. Prostitution goes on there and gambling. Like they had rooms like that was just used for them where they would store drugs that they had taken off people or whatever. It's their spot. So the thing is, he's like, I'm telling him, bro, let's just go, right? Okay, did anybody see you? Because I'm scared because we're out there and there's a dead body out there. And I don't know if somebody see it, like you shot this guy, somebody had to hear it. I'm just nervous. I'm scared.
Okay. So now you're out in this field and you have this dead body in front of you.
And hold on, Scar. Let me say, it's not a field. It's like it's an area between this store and the hotel. So it's like pretty much it's where the like hotel property and the store, I guess when it was open back in the day, would border. So it's like in between those two.
Gotcha. So you have this dead body. You and Larry are standing over it. What do you do with the dead body at this point?
Like I said, Larry went and got this quilt out of the trunk of his car because that was like part of his job was when he would escort the trailers. He would have to take maybe I think like the plastic or whatever, it would come loose, or he would have to come get up on the trailer, fix something in the wheel well or whatever. So he kept it with him all the time. He went and got it. We put this body on the quilt and put in the trunk of the car.
Well, I mean, it's a body. Did both of you lift the body up together and put it in the trunk?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So now you guys are in this red Lexus with a dead body in the trunk. What happens next?
Well, Larry gets in and drive. He said he knew like where he wanted to take it at. And so I'm thinking like we were actually about where this happened at. We were actually about maybe 2 or 3 miles from the bridge over the Lumbee River. So I didn't know he said something about putting it in the water. I assumed that's where he was going. Instead, he gets on Highway 74, like I said, which is nowhere from this place. It's like less than 100 yards. He gets on Highway 74, makes a right, which means that we're driving west, and goes straight to Laurinburg, North Carolina, which is like 30 minutes away. Maybe a little bit more, maybe 40 minutes away from Lumberton. But of course, he's driving fast. When we get to Laurinburg, he kind of cuts through Laurinburg, and we end up in a place like I've never been to this place before, but it's a mile from the trailer plant that he worked at with the sheriff's son. Like that was the base of the operation, with a trailer plant. And I don't know if the trailer plant's in Laurinburg, but we were in South Carolina. Technically, we was like maybe 100 yards or so from the North Carolina South Carolina border. And we got out the car and kind of backed the car up to like this very low, I want to say a bridge, but technically we was on a bridge, but it's like a cement railing type of thing. He backs the car up there, don't get out the car, untie the trunk, unpop the trunk because he had to put it like a rubber tie in the locking portion of the trunk and pull it down because I guess like the size of the trunk was not big enough to allow him to completely close the trunk. But he gets out and we take the body and we put the body in the water. I never got a good look at the face. You was asking me what I was thinking, and I'm gonna be honest with you, man, I just really wasn't thinking. I'm just thinking, let's get out of this area that we're in where you say you shot this guy at. He told me it happened like a couple of hours earlier. But I didn't know what was going on. Like, I didn't know police was lurking behind, a hotel room, getting spring out, waiting. I don't know what's going on. So I just really wasn't thinking.
Okay. So along with his body, there's some belongings. There is a NBA championship watch. There's an NBA championship ring. And there's also a wallet, money, and some other personal belongings. So what happened with all these things?
Okay, well, and see, that's one of the things that's definitely been twisted around. When we put his body in the water, now whether he, at some point, like went through his pockets, got a wallet out or something like that, I don't know. Because like I said, I never seen one. I never saw a wallet. I never saw any ID. I never saw any money that came from him that I knew of. Larry had money already, of course, but I don't know, like for a fact, that money came from him. About 3 days later, we were in Fayetteville, North Carolina, with the car. I think it was on a Monday, which would have been 26th. And this was just before we actually ended up getting rid of the car. I was looking for a change to make a phone call because my brother, his phone was in his ex, name, so you couldn't make like a long distance call. He's living like in a trailer park. Like at the time, he's in the military, he's a sergeant in the Army, so he's living in a trailer park outside of Fayetteville. So I get in the car and I ride around and I find like it's a bank of phones. So I say, okay, I'm gonna I'm just gonna go ahead and call. So I try to call Collector first. Whoever I was trying to call, I think maybe my sister or somebody, she didn't accept the call. So I go back in the car and I'm looking for change. And as I'm looking for change, like in the middle of the console, there's like a door. I don't know if you've ever been like in a Lexus or one of modern cars. Cause you gotta think, well, I didn't even realize that this Lexus was like an expensive car. I thought it was like a Toyota, just like a name of a Toyota, cause I had been locked up for 2.5 years. I'd never even seen one. But, when I went and kind of pressed down, it kind of flipped around, and inside of it, it was a watch, and there was an all-star ring. I never seen a championship ring, period. I never had one on. There was a stipulation that they said that Michael Jordan identified a ring on my finger. That was a lie. They lied on Michael Jordan. Couldn't find out. He never said that. But there was an all-star ring, which was made out of like a silver type of material. That didn't look expensive, to be honest with you. And there was a watch, and there was a picture of a child like in the same thing. So that was found 3 days later, and that's why if you look at the trial transcript, the girls that was with us like the same day that this murder happened, and the day after, people that like nobody saw me with this ring or with this watch until that Monday. That's when I found it, and when I found it, to be honest with you, it's like it says Michael Jordan, like it has Jordan on it, right? It has the Bulls. It's something that has Jordan's name on it. So I'm like, wow, this is cool. And I'm like, Larry, what's up with this? He said, man, I don't know. He said, man, this look like fake to me. I said, yeah, I'm thinking it's like maybe like commemorative stuff or whatever that you can order. Didn't nobody think it was real, man. But I put it on because, it had Jordan brand on it.
Okay. And you actually ended up going back to your house at some point and making a rap video while wearing this ring and watch.
Right. That was made in Fayetteville. Yeah, that was made while we was in Fayetteville. So this was not made. Yeah, this was made like immediately, maybe an hour or two after I found this watch in the ring.
Okay. So you guys dumped the body, and you guys drive around in this Lexus for like 3 days, right?
Well, that Friday, Saturday, for us, and a lot of people, like basically everybody was joyriding. There was a lot of people that was involved. A lot of people that were never charged, even questioned. But there was a lot of people joyriding, because you got to think, bro. I know that somebody has gotten killed. I know that this person has gotten killed. I'm thinking that I know, because of course I didn't. I didn't know what I was being told, and making my own conclusions. But what I'm being told and what I'm thinking is that okay, that this car did not belong to this person that just got killed. That this person that got killed, that he's a mule, that's sending his drugs, like he's basically dropping it off. So it's not his car. 9 times out of 10, it's either a car that's hot but it's clean, like it's stolen but it's clean enough for you to move in to make this trip, or it's a rental car. That's what I'm thinking. So that's why I had no problem, making phone calls from the car. We was riding around, like I said, a lot of us, man, and showing off because I'm 18 years old. I just got out of prison. So you're in a nice car and you pull up and then people are like, wow, that's a nice car. So, it's, just kind of like, I'm not going to say that it's normal, but it is normal, unfortunately, where you have people that ride around in vehicles that's not theirs and they rent vehicles from crackheads or that's involved in something. So, we had it for like Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and I think Monday, and I could be mistaken about Monday, it could have been Tuesday, was the day that we went out and talked to some guys and we ended up leaving the car out there, which was supposed to come back and pick it up. Larry was supposed to come back and pick it up, and that's when they pretty much stole the car from us because they moved the car out of the woods or something.
Eventually, they found the car in the woods in Fayetteville, North Carolina, about 60 miles from where the body was initially found. And the car was completely stripped down. So how did that car get stripped down?
Well, after we left the car, and I can't say for certain because I wasn't there and didn't even know these guys, but like I didn't know these guys at all. Because we didn't initially go out there to sell this car or anything of that nature, which is what people testified to and what Larry said. That's not why we went out there. We initially went out there because he had some of the coke on him. He was trying to trade the coke off or something. But once we got out there, and then everybody started talking about Michael Jordan, and somebody said something about the place. They said, man, that's Michael Jordan's number, 23, and he went to UNC Chapel Hill. Now, this may sound crazy to a lot of people because I'm black, and I guess, they expect black people to know this. I didn't grow up watching basketball at all. Like, I never knew until that summer that Michael Jordan played for UNC Chapel Hill. I had no connection to UNC Chapel Hill. I think I hadn't been in North Carolina for years. I hadn't stayed in North Carolina since I was a little kid. So, only thing I know about Michael Jordan is that summer, really, before I got out, there was the finals. They were playing the Knicks when I got home that day. They was playing the Knicks. So, I know Michael Jordan is from the sneakers. The very first pair of shoes I had, it was Jordans. I worked for them, got them, and somebody robbed me of my shoes. And like some grown guys stuck me up and got them. But, that's like, I don't really know so when people, they're like saying this, and then I start putting things together, like real quick. I'm like, damn, that's why you have a Chicago Bull air freshener in this car. That's why, like, on the golf bags, because there was some golf bags in there as well, with a name on a piece of tape and it was over Michael Jordan's name. But I'm thinking it's just a Michael Jordan brand golf bag. Like, but there's no way possible. Anybody can say what they want to say. Nobody in that position gonna know this is Michael Jordan stuff. So, when the guy said that, we left the car because my brother didn't want the car back at his house. I think he had he had a bad feeling about it. So we just left the car. We were supposed to come back and pick it up, And when we got back in contact with them, they was like, man, such and such, she's not here. They're not here. Okay, we'll call back. So I said, man, them dudes probably have already done something with this car. Well, by that time, I'm figuring out more because one of my brothers showed me a video of Michael Jordan. And I want to say it was called Come Fly With Me, but I can't remember if that's the exact one. But he was driving a car just like that Lexus. I don't think it was the same color, but I think it was the same kind. And it could have been the same car. I don't know. But when I saw that, and my other brother, he was like, man, that's Carter. Like, Michael Jordan, brother, he's like, something happened. Somebody got killed with the mob and the gambling. And I bet you that's, what I'm saying? He probably, just a lot of stuff that scared the hell out of me. And I'm like, man, hey, man, I'm not trying to get back in touch with them guys. If they got the car, let them keep the car. If they get out of the car, that's on them. You know what I'm saying? Cause I didn't want to have nothing to do with the situation once it started dawning on me what was really going on. So I can't say, but the car was stripped down. I can't say who stripped the car down, but the guys, 2 or 3 of the guys, pled guilty to possession of stolen goods and I guess whatever the charges were that related to them, stripping the car. But I can't say for like myself. I never saw the car no more once we got outside the car.
Okay, so the 4 days after the murder, there were 36 phone calls that were made using the car phone in the Lexus. A lot of those calls were to your family and friends and so forth. But there was also a call that was made to Sheriff Hubert Stone's son, Hubert Larry Dees.
Right.
And allegedly, the son was doing some sort of drug deals with Larry.
Okay, he's the guy that he was pretty much the head of that particular branch of the operation.
Okay. there's allegedly a connection between the sheriff's son and Larry in terms of drug trafficking.
Yeah, and like I was saying, Larry Dees went to prison. He was debriefed. According to him, he was doing ride-alongs with the sheriff, with the guy that came to my house to arrest me that was behind my house, named Mark Locklear. I think Mark Locklear went behind the house to shoot me when I came out. I thought they think that I probably thought, okay, if this guy run out the back door, Mark, you go ahead and kill him, and case is over. Case is solved, and nothing comes out. But Larry Dees, he pled guilty to that. He was debriefed. He's the one that says, what you're just saying right now. We do know that that police interrogated him. That the FBI told them to question him about his phone number was the first person called from that car. He was the first person called from that car. And I don't know him. I don't know this guy. I've never worked with him. Larry's admitted to knowing him. He's admitted to knowing Larry. But I don't know, period. But that was the first person that was called from the car. And like I said, I know from my own knowledge, and I know that just Larry's cousin confirmed it before we was locked up. So it's not like we told her what to say or would tell her to say something that would incriminate Larry. That he was planning on coming up there to bring dope up there. So it's like pretty much indisputable that he went out there to pick up some drugs. Whether they sent him out there, I don't know. But I do know that he had a warrant for his arrest. Larry had a warrant out for his arrest for serious felonies like armed robberies and assault that I didn't know about at the time. Like, I don't think I knew about was what he was telling me he was facing. I'm thinking it's like a big. He never told me about the robberies and the assault charges. Like, I never knew about that until we got locked up. But I knew he had a warrant out for his arrest. And I knew that he didn't have to go to court. Like, the police stopped us in the car. They stopped us in the car on a day, a couple of days after the murder took place. He got out of the car, I spoke to him. We got back in the car and we went on to Fayetteville. So, that's why when I was locked up, that's why I didn't cooperate with the police. Because, I'm pretty sure you understand that if you're dealing with police where you pretty much everything's corrupted on some level, right? You always have things that's not what it should be in an institution. But if you know that people involved in it, there's something that's that organized, you don't know if the police you're talking to is actually a person that's involved. As soon as you say the wrong thing, he's going to get you killed or something. And that's something I testified about in 1995, before police were videos shooting people in the back. That's what I told the judge in 1995 at the suppression hearing. Listen, bro, I don't know if you were going to shoot me in the back or what. I don't know. The only thing I know is what's being is who Larry is, what Larry was telling me, and what has since come out. That's all I know, and we know with regard to that.
So, 11 days after the murder happened, they actually found Jordan Sr.'s body draped over a tree in Gun Swamp, and they didn't actually know who it was, so they ended up cremating the body. So it was essentially a John Doe. So, at what point did you actually get arrested?
I was arrested. They came and picked me up. The last full day I was on the street was Friday the 13th. So they arrested me on Saturday the 14th, August the 14th, 1993.
Okay. And the family of Jordan, they actually waited 3 weeks after he was missing to actually report a missing person. And then 7 days after they actually found the Lexus. So some time had passed between the murder and them actually connecting the dots and figuring out that this was James Jordan Sr. So you get arrested and you get questioned, interrogated for like 7 hours. Is that correct?
Yeah, it may have been, it's about that. It may have been longer. It was like all night. They came and got me about, I can't say the exact time, maybe 10, 11 o'clock, maybe. They kept me in until the morning, to the sun rose. And they took me to the magistrate's office. So when they took me to the magistrate's office, I could look out and see that it was light outside. So I was literally up all night. and to be honest with you, I was kind of high. Like when they came and got me, I had just took a bowl hit of some weed. You know what I mean? About because I was getting ready, I was going to go to sleep.
Okay, so you're 18 years old. You're being interrogated for 7 hours or so, and you have no lawyer present.
Yeah, they told me they won't, and I was so ignorant, man, because when they came and got me, they said, hey, man, we just want to talk to you about some stolen car parts. So I know what it's about, right? When they came in, when the police surrounded my house, I didn't know who it was, though, at first. And I'm thinking, okay, these guys coming looking for Larry. I called Larry. I said, man, these guys is over here. And he was on the phone talking to his ex-girlfriend, but his baby mother. And they were arguing or something. He said, well, let me call you back later. He's thinking I'm bullshit. So I called him back. I said, listen, man, I'm serious. Like, they're over here. And I said, you know what? Matter of fact, it's the police because they, brought the radio out. You heard the sound and, so I said, okay, it's the police. And I was like, listen, man, if they lock me up, because I was out on parole, this was before my charge got vacated. And I want to go back to that charge if at some point. But, so he had advance warning. He knew that they were coming to him, you know what I mean? And I'm like, okay, just if they lock me up for like violating his parole or whatever, he said, I'm not saying, already know I'm not going to say anything. I'm not going to tell him what I know. I said, just try to get some money to my mother, man, to make sure she's okay, and then she can buy me out. So that's how that went.
Okay. Now, during the interrogation, they told you that Larry was actually cooperating and saying that you were the trigger man.
No, that's not what happened. They interrogated me for hours and hours. When they left, came back, and they said something that Larry told me when Larry initially told me it happened with regard to him defending himself, because when he first told me, basically, okay, he's saying that he's meeting this guy, and this guy, tried him, so he had to defend himself. So when the police, the guy named Art Bonder, he said something in that context, and so when he said that, I knew that they had to have Larry. That's the only way I even knew, because you think about it, I just, like as I was just telling you, when I talked to Larry, he knows the police just got me. He's supposed to, get in the wind. He's supposed to, disappear, do whatever he's going to do. I didn't know that he turned himself in, and his dad and his cousin, who was a police officer, brought him down there. So it wasn't until then that I realized that they had Larry in custody. All the way up until then, the way that I was lying was, partly predicated on protecting him and keeping him in the dark, because I know what I did, right? So I know, okay, if, no matter what happens, I know what I did. I don't know how much time it carries. I know I don't want to go back to prison, but whatever it is, I can do it, because I know it can't carry that much time, especially with him telling me what he told me as far as it being self-defense. So I'm trying to protect Larry. He had a baby coming on the way. And, he's, look white. So I know that for a white guy to go into prison in 1993, bro, that's the hell. That's the worst experience than it would be for me. You understand? Yeah, but that's so they never told me, like, oh man, Larry, it wasn't until they came back in that they started making different allegations against, Mr. Jordan. It just, it doesn't even make sense to me why they would even do that. But with Larry, I don't, like I said, I think that that's what they told him. They told him, okay, Daniel's over there telling the truth now. He's saying that you did this and you did that. You killed this man, and that's not true. They came to me with a written statement that they wanted me to sign. They wrote out a statement outside of my presence and said, look, man, if you sign this piece of paper, you're going to get accessory after the fact. And during the actual interrogation, you can see where he brings up the accessory after the fact. I said, man, I know somebody got, and I say accessory after the fact to murder. And so I said, man, I know somebody got a life sentence for accessory after the fact. I just got out of prison. He said, man, you don't have no reason to trust me, but here's the book, and this is what you get, and that's what you're guilty of. Then he started, once he started I wasn't cooperating with him, he said, okay, I can't really break this nigga. So, now we're going to come with the scary tactics. So he did tell me that, and I just didn't believe him. When they said something about, Larry's saying, Larry's saying something, I'm like, man, y'all need to have Larry. That's what I'm thinking, because I know Larry's not there. That's what I'm thinking, because I know I talked to him. So, Yeah, so I don't, like I said, but from my understanding over the years, people that talked to him, they said that he's told people exactly what I just told you about what happened. He's told a lot of people. He's smart enough. He's not going to, I guess, not going to tell the, he wouldn't tell you maybe, but he's told a lot of people. He's told a lot of people different versions. But he's telling people in prison that he put it on me because he was facing death penalty, because he had a baby on the way, and because he felt that I snitched on him. He's saying that's why. And if he would have seen the interrogation or heard the interrogation tapes, he would have known that wasn't true.
Okay, so now the investigation, the trial begins. They have the car, but there's really no blood evidence inside the car. There's no gunshot residue inside the car either.
Really, there was no. Before we was even locked up, when the same guy, Art Bonder, gave a press interview that I just found out about last year. He said that they did a luminol test, which is the most sensitive test. People maybe see it on TV where they spray something on a surface, and if it's blood present or other things, it'll glow. Then you have to determine whether or not it's blood. And he told Connie Chung of CBS News, I think it was like August the 11th, which was 4 days before we were arrested. He told them that they tested the car and it was negative. Then once we got locked up, they wanted to create an impression that there was blood, and I just really honestly feel in my heart, and from everything I've seen, I think that was a lie that was designed to make the Jordan family feel threatened about some other matter.
Okay. Now, there's also a weird situation around the shirt of the victim. Apparently, they didn't have the shirt initially, and then an employee of the funeral home ended up taking the shirt and burying it somewhere because it smelled so bad, and then they finally dug it up. And at that point, they had found the shirt had a bullet hole in it and so forth.
Mm-hmm. Well, and see, this is the thing, is that when they first examined the shirt, there were 3 holes towards the bottom of the shirt, directly under where the bullet wound entered the body, is what they're saying. So what they're saying is that the shirt had been pulled up, which maybe looked like, okay, if somebody's pulling the shirt up that high, maybe they're pulling the shirt up because they're going for something, whether they're going for a gun or maybe in the midst of a struggle. Maybe, you fighting in the shirt, somebody pull up a shirt, however it happened, the bottom of the shirt was pulled up high enough that it left 3 holes in the shirt where the shirt was folded at above, like where its chest area was at. Then after that was found, there was no bullet hole, like a corresponding bullet hole directly like in the shirt where the bullet hole was at. There was no bullet hole through the shirt. Basically, it's pretty clear, man, is that they added a bullet hole after the fact of after our being locked up, maybe when it came into the hands of either the FBI or South Carolina State Police. Somebody added a bullet hole in there after the original coroner examined it and made a diagram of everything. Like, he was extremely detailed in his diagram of the shirt with the bullet holes. So basically, somebody faked the bullet hole in the shirt.
Okay. So now the trial starts, and essentially there's no evidence, and the prosecution used Larry's version of the events as their entire prosecution.
Right. Yeah, and so this is the thing. This is the issue. The issue comes down to whether you believe Larry or do you believe, my alibi witnesses and what the scientific evidence has now been proven to have shown, but which back then we didn't know about because they lied about it. They lied and said that they found blood in the car. They lied and said about, several other things to cooperate, to give scientific evidence to corroborate his version, because of course, everybody knows, okay, well, Larry could be lying, right? I think everybody knew that. But when you have this juror, they say, okay, well, we know that Larry could be lying, but this scientific expert from the FBI is corroborating his story because she says that she found blood in the car where he says this murder happened at. And they're saying that there was, that this man was not murdered in the manner that they say he was, but their experts are saying like they were hiding the evidence. The benefit that we have now is knowing what they didn't know. You see what I'm saying? Like what they didn't know back then. But back then, if you're looking at it, still you have to decide, okay, this is the only thing I could think of, bro, is that they probably think that when Larry came back and picked me up, that when we left, that the murder could have happened then. If my attorneys would have done a simple timeline, they could not have thought that. But my attorneys didn't put on Larry's cousin from New York who called and said that this was a drug action. The judge would not allow us to enter in any evidence to suggest that it was a drug transaction that was going wrong, because I think he was afraid that somebody would take that and try to say, oh, well, James Jordan was involved in drugs. And I've never said that. I've never believed that. I don't believe he was out there for any wrong reason. I just think he was in the wrong place at the wrong time. That's what I personally believe. And I think that Larry was probably high and got him mixed up with somebody else, because, you know, we have the federal files from the Hubert Larry Dees investigation, and some of the guys that worked for him. And so one of his guys were like that one of the cars that they were using to transport drugs in was a red car that had 5-point, star rims on 5-star rims on it. But the car that he was talking about was a Ford Probe. So Larry may have gotten it mixed up, just thinking, okay, well, I'm looking for a 5 car that got, 5-star rims in it. There it is. And he may have decided that guy, like, I really don't know. I don't think I know what he told me initially, and then what he told me before I got locked up, because I kept asking him questions like, Larry, like something like, where was the guy gun at? Like, why could we find this guy gun? Because we did look out there where the body was at to see. I was like, I want to see, man, where's the gun at? Because I'm thinking, okay, if there's no gun out here, somebody may have even gotten the gun. And I think, like deep inside, but I felt like something was off with what he was telling me, but I didn't really know how to analyze it at that young age. So, that's pretty much like how that happened.
After it happened, there was the conspiracy theory that somehow Michael Jordan's father was killed because of Jordan's gambling. Is there any truth to that at all?
No, man, no. And see, this is where, people, this is the problem with this, right? Is that summer, when I found out that the car was connected to Michael Jordan, like I said, I really didn't know as much as everybody else because I was in prison where, you didn't even have, you didn't have access to the telephone really a lot. You didn't have access to a television. There's no cable, no ESPN. But, everybody's talking, kids talking, and, oh, man, Michael Jordan, some guy got killed, and then Mike Mayo, whatever. So when we were arrested, the police definitely were saying things like that. Like, they were saying those things to me to say, yeah, man, like, to say we was involved in a hit. I'm like, I know what you're talking about. But I've never, ever seen anything that would convince me, Daniel Green, under my standard of proof, which is very high now because of what I've been through, and I know what it's like to be falsely accused. I've never seen nothing to suggest that. And when I was in the county jail, when I first talked about what really happened, against my, people advising me, bro, you shouldn't talk about this case until you go to trial. And I'm like, listen, these people talking about Michael Jordan, bro. And like every other kid, I'm a Michael Jordan fan, not because back then, not really so much because of basketball, because I didn't watch basketball, but, the sneakers and the fact that there's this black guy that me and Larry, we're going to a very racist school. Like, me and my cousin were the one that forcefully integrated this school. And so one of the few common things that like about black culture that everybody loved, you had like some rappers, a couple of singers, Michael Jackson and Michael Jordan. So to me, it was like, wow, this dude did something because he made it okay to be black. Like he was that bad in that area, bro. So to me, that means something. If it don't mean nothing to somebody else, it means something to me. And so when the lies would start being told and I was in the county jail, that's why I ended up giving the very first interview that I gave, was to address that. Say, listen, that's not what happened, and I don't believe that's what happened. But it hurt me because in order for me to say that, I had to tell, okay, listen, I helped dispose of this man's body. And like I said, the thing is that nobody really understands, and I hope that maybe you can do an effort to show, is that if you look at the timeline from the time that Mr. Jordan left Wilmington, which was about 12 o'clock in the morning, that means he would have been at Lumberton at 1 o'clock, 1:30 at the latest, right? Because it's only like an hour and a half away from Lumberton, from that area. Okay, then Larry leaving Kay's house, which is where I was at, he's leaving. Larry left around the same time. Larry doesn't come back to 4 hours later. You have a witness. Her name is Marilyn Locklear that testified that she saw Larry in the Lexus by himself between 2 and 3 o'clock a.m. It couldn't have been any other night except for that night because, from the phone records and all the witnesses, they know where we were at. They know that we was in South Carolina the next night. The next night we was home at my house, so we had two females with us from South Carolina. The next night we was in South Carolina, and then on the third night we was already in Fayetteville. So that means this lady saw him by himself and coming to her house and just waiting for a couple of minutes. And then leaving by himself. Well, guess who lived with her? Godfather. So he apparently got the car and then still went trying to find this guy Godfather to go with him. So which means the Godfather he himself probably was not involved in it. But if you look at the timeline, it's really mathematics. It does not allow me to be here. And what his testimony, what the police did is they try to make up for that time gap. From the time that he said that we left at 1:30, he said that we left together. That was only after he realized that everybody else was like, nah, man, Larry left by himself at 1:30. That's when he even told the truth about even being at Kay Hernandez's house that night. Prior to then, he was saying something totally different. So what was happening is that the police was taking him things and said, okay, Larry, you're not telling us the truth. We need you to say this. And he's like, okay, yeah, and I'm going to say anything y'all tell me to say because he's already facing 260 years of our charges. He's already facing a mandatory minimum of 42 years. So he actually ended up getting less time because he's just got parole. He's just signed off on his MAP contract. He's ended up doing less time for actually killing this guy and lying on, me and putting it on, with his plea bargain that he received from the state than he would have received if Mr. Jordan had never been murdered to begin with.
Okay, so ultimately you guys both go to trial and both of you get life sentences.
No, I went to trial. He pled guilty. He never went to trial.
Okay. So he pled guilty, and what was his plea deal?
His plea deal was that the 260-some years of charges that he had, that those charges would basically disappear, that they would run all of his sentence consolidated, meaning that they would take all of his various charges and give him the time for one charge. So they gave him a 40-year sentence he had other previous charges. That's what I'm saying. This guy already had other charges that he was out on bond for that summer that included the same type of crime where you had somebody that was robbed and assaulted unnecessarily. Like a lady that worked at a store from his town, an Indian lady, he robbed her 2 o'clock in the morning. He had a gun but picked up a brick and hit in the head. And at the time I didn't know this. So see, this is the thing. That's why I was trying to clarify to you, I hadn't been in that area for years. So I hadn't seen Larry for, probably about 3 years before then. And that one time I seen him before then I had seen him for about 2 or 3 years. So we were childhood friends. And you don't know when you haven't seen people how they changed or what they've been involved in. So when I didn't know anything about this robbery, but for all of those charges, they took that and made 140-year sentence. Then they said, okay, Larry, if you get life, then you on that 40 years is going to run concurrent, meaning it's going to run into that, meaning you're not going to serve no time. So basically, the way that his plea bargain was structured, which was really, it was an unlawful plea because you can't do that by law. By law, they could not do that. They could not run his, they couldn't wipe away those other charges, but they did. And they knew that they was going to come back and fix it later on, which is what they did. So 10 years later, he went back to court. And they said, okay, well, that was illegal. We got to fix that. So we're going to allow you to withdraw your plea, Larry, and re-enter your plea. And we're going to go ahead and just give you the plea bargain straight up. Well, now, they could have given that plea bargain straight up to begin with, structured just like that to begin with. But if they would have, they would not have been able to argue to this jury that Larry was testifying and wasn't getting nothing substantial except for being the pleasure of telling the truth and doing the right thing and not going to death row. Or not, maybe being able to not go to death row.
Okay. So Larry ends up testifying against you in your trial, right, and said that you were the trigger man, and you end up getting life in prison.
See, that's the crazy thing, because the jury came back. See, what happened was that after I was found guilty, they reopened the proceedings to decide what the sentence was going to be. And the state didn't have to do that, but they chose to do that. And by them doing that, that allowed us to put in more evidence. And so one of the witnesses that testified was the first people that was robbed. You know what I'm saying? That was robbed that summer, which is the people that me and Larry actually robbed together. And they came to court and testified, and it was apparent, you know, from their testimony that, man, this dude is not, like, y'all trying to portray me as the brainchild, as the leader, you know, as this violent guy. This lady's like, no, this guy didn't want to be there. He didn't have a gun. The other guy Larry was the one that was somebody, he was going to shoot somebody in the head and blow your head off. And this other guy bounced. He left, you know what I'm saying? She testified, and I think that's what made the jury think, damn, these people tricked us. So they came back and made a finding that I didn't kill James Jordan. That's something that can't be challenged. That's something that the state is basically stuck with. That jury came back and said, no, he didn't find. You know what I'm saying? That Danny Green didn't kill him, and he didn't intend to kill him. So they believed that I was present during the robbery. And like I said, I wasn't, but that's what the jury found. So the only question now is, legally, you know, is there overwhelming evidence of guilt based on Larry's testimony? And the judge, even though he did not give us this hearing last year, he said, man, Larry has no credibility. He was impeached. You follow me? So if he has no credibility, it can't be overwhelming evidence of guilt when he's the only person on the planet saying, I killed this man. And everybody knows and understands that this plea bargain that they said did not exist and he was the help that he wasn't going to get, well, he's gotten it. Because they took him back to court. He had told a guy 20 years ago that his lawyer put some type of loophole into his plea and that he was going back to court. And that's what happened. This guy gave me an affidavit 15, 20 years ago, 2001, gave me an affidavit. 2008, 2009, the same thing this guy said was going to happen. It happened. They took Larry back to court because what happened, because his plea was not lawful, the state, once he got to the prison system, they automatically separated his sentences. So he would have to do one sentence, which would have kept him in prison a long time.
Well, you were 18 years old, and you're doing a life sentence.
Right.
And you and Larry basically haven't talked since both of you guys got sentenced.
And we haven't talked.
Okay. So now you're in prison doing life. And everybody knows that you're one of the guys that was convicted for killing Michael Jordan, who is considered the greatest basketball player of all time. People idolize this guy, not only on the basketball court, but on the shoes that they wear. I looked up an article. In 1998, you had 12 serious infractions that you said came from defending yourself against people who were Michael Jordan fans.
No, I've never said that. That's not true. That's not true, bro. I've been in one fight since the whole time I've been in prison with another inmate over this case, where something was said about my case.
Okay, so you're telling me that no Michael Jordan fans outside of this one incident had ever approached you?
Never. Because everybody knows. I mean, everybody pretty much know what happened, man. First of all. Second of all, you know, I'm not the softest guy in the world. I ain't the hardest, but I'm not the softest either. You know, and I can defend myself. You got to realize I had just gotten out of prison, so I was already known from the first time I was in prison for being able to defend myself. But more or less, I mean, everybody pretty much know what happened. Like, guys know what's went on. Larry, like I said, he's bragged about killing this man to people in prison since he's been in prison. So, I've never, like I said, I had one guy. He made a remark, and it was like first thing in the morning, and he said, I don't remember what he said, but he said something, and it was like, you know, I couldn't let it go. I said, man, you know, we got to shoot it. You know, we in the winter world, I'm going to let you say that and then open that door for everybody else trying to approach me in that manner, because I know that could always be a possibility.
Okay. And the prison that you're in right now, what's the cell number that you're in?
They locked me up 4 weeks ago. They took, you know, some letters I was, you know, was sending to some people in Michael Jordan's camp and to his family and to him. They took a lot of all my law books, evidence in my case. And when they let me out of the hole, they put me in cell 23.
Okay. So you're in cell 23 right now, which is Michael Jordan's number.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And I guess at one point you converted to Islam and you changed your name. That's not true either?
Yeah. No, I was Muslim before I was locked up. And
Okay.
now I don't practice Islam as an organized religion. I just found there was a common ground. There's a common thread that runs throughout all religions, and that's what I adhere to. When it comes to this case, I think what's been most helpful to me is like reading, Christ's life, because of the way that Christ was, the way that they try to stop him from getting out his message. It's like the same tactics that I like encounter. So from my studying that, I learned about what to expect with this case, and I learned how to navigate and how to maneuver and to try to stay like above the fray, because it's been a deliberate attempt to instigate, Michael Jordan and his family against me by people who were trying to profit off of that instigation, if that makes sense. Like they're going to him and telling him different things and saying, yeah, Mike, this guy's saying this, or telling their agents and their lawyers, listen, this guy's saying this, or he's doing this, and if he gets in court, this is what's going to happen. Then they're coming to me and saying, man, Michael Jordan, he did this, and Michael Jordan put a hit on you, or Michael Jordan, he's paying off judges and lawyers and everything, so that I would say something. But see, one thing I'm not going to never do, I'm not going to never attack the family of a man that's been murdered, when I've been through that with my family numerous times. And I understand these people, what type of games that these people play to try to create conflict and to create friction, because that's where the profit come in from them. I'm not going to fall into that. I'm not going to play into that. What I did, I'm like sincerely remorseful for what I did, without any explanations, without any justification. And there's some, because I had just gotten out of prison on a charge that was overturned. So you think about it. You on your way to get ready to go to school, and you're trying to reach your like dreams. And back then I was in the music. I wanted to DJ. I used to travel with a pair of 1200 techniques. Back then it was real turntables back then. I don't know if you know anything about that, but it was real turntables then. And that's what I was into. And when this happened, it was like, it was like wrong decisions, bro, that I just was not prepared for. And so when I got locked up, and before the charge got overturned, people were constantly telling me, like, when you in prison, you should be in prison, and well, that's what you say happened, when I know what happened. So now it's like my whole worldview is totally skewed when it comes to dealing with police, when it comes to dealing with this justice system, or even adults just in general. It's like, man, I can't trust y'all, because y'all just led me down the slaughter for 2.5 years. I just went through a war zone from 16 to 18, man. I'm sitting there watching officers have other guys rape guys, and, it's a joke to them, and, fighting, they're making you fight, they're instigating fights, and, I mean, it's crazy. So when you go through that, I don't care who you is as a child going through that, bro, that was the most formative years of my life, and that's what I had to overcome. So at this point in my life, I'm not going to ever say anything negative about the Jordans, or about what speculations have been put out, because my thing is, no matter who this person was, he didn't deserve to get murdered. In no, in no shape, form, or fashion. And I don't, I just think that when people talk about loyalty, right, you have to be very careful who you're loyal to. You have to be loyal to a principle instead of people. Because if you're loyal to a principle and you adhere to that principle, and it's a good principle, no matter what situation comes, you're going to be able to, like you'll be able to resist it. You're going to know how not to step into it. At that time, I just didn't know that.
Okay. Well, at one point, you actually wrote a letter to the Jordan family explaining your version of the events and apologizing for what happened, but they never responded.
I've received a response, and I just leave it. I don't want to talk about. Anything, any communication between me and them, what that response was. It wasn't a detailed response. I sent the message, and it was just pretty much, it was a beautiful response, and that I received it. Is that okay with you?
Sure. And was the response from Michael Jordan himself?
No.
Okay. Can you say who the response was from?
Yeah, it was from one of his sisters.
Okay.
Well, it wasn't a written response, but she told somebody the message to give to me. The lady gave me the message.
Okay. I interviewed this basketball player named Jason Williams. So Jason Williams' sister was brutally attacked by this one guy, which ultimately led to her dying later on. At one point, this guy got out of prison, and a bunch of Jason's friends went and captured this guy and handed Jason a gun and said, go ahead and kill him and get your revenge. Jason Williams ended up not doing it and walked away. Years later, he was having dinner with Michael Jordan, and he was telling Michael the story, and Michael Jordan said, you know, if I was in your position and the murderers of my father were there and I had a gun, I would have killed him. I wouldn't have let him walk away.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest. Yeah, I don't believe that. I don't believe that. I'm going to tell you why I don't believe that. Because if Michael Jordan wanted me dead, I would have been dead years ago, man. I would have been dead before they picked us up. I could have been dead through the death penalty because I believe my trial was rigged to find me guilty. You know what I'm saying? But, you know, if he wanted me dead, I would have received the death penalty. And with the money he has and the connections he has, if he wanted me dead, I would have been dead years ago. So I just personally, I don't believe that story. And I doubt that this guy, that he would go publicly and say that Michael Jordan told him that. I don't believe it.
Okay. So Larry is now eligible for parole.
Yeah, Larry's just been granted, basically the first step. For basically, he'll be released very soon.
Okay. You're not eligible for review until 2025.
That's not true. I'm eligible actually next year because they ran my sentence because they separated my sentence. They didn't run them together like they did with his.
Okay. Well, you haven't spoken to Larry since the whole incident occurred. It's been decades. If you could tell Larry one thing right now, what would it be?
You know, this is the thing, man. Like, you know, he knows what he did, and he knows that he pulled me into this and pulled me in the blinds, and then, you know, when we were arrested, like, he allowed these people to use racial stereotypes to convict me, because that's what I was basically convicted on, everything that they used from the rap video. And understand, like, they said that I was bragging about killing Mr. Jordan in this rap video. That's not what I said. I was rapping, and I was rapping at the time. Like, that's what I was doing. That's what I was chasing. I ended up getting a contract as a songwriter. But the rapping was like, the rap was a way for me to get into position to write songs. That's what I wanted. And so what I said was, I said 2 shots to the head, and I was using a metaphor. Like, if you know anything about hip hop, you know, like it's a metaphor. Lyrically, I was really talking about lyrics, but you could have took it the other way because it's like a battle rap. So, you know, they used that against me as if I was sitting there rapping about, you know, killing James Jordan, or as if I'm just like, as if I killed this man and then put this jewelry on and flashed it in the video with this lady sitting on the couch watching the whole time. You know, that doesn't even make sense. So he allowed him to use those racial stereotypes against me. I've heard different things myself. He may have said some things that was racist, but I was just, you know, I would of course would want him to tell the truth, but at the same time, bro, it's like my pride and really my pain. It's like, bro, you know, I put myself out there for you. You know, I've always, since we was kids, like, you know, when nobody else went with him, I was. You know, we became friends because we had a mutual interest in reading books. And I was okay, even though we integrated this school, even though there was a lot of racist teachers and racist kids. You know, if you go back and read like a Vibe magazine from I think 1993, 94, with the one that has Tupac on the cover of it with a straight jacket, this lady named Kathy Dobie, she went down and talked to people. And if you look at the interview, you see classmates that spent more time around Larry because I ended up moving away, but they had nothing bad to say about me. You see what I'm saying? But about him, it was like this guy was weird. So it was like I was always a friend to this guy, man. You know, I believe the friendship is you know, essential to the soul. And that's the way that I was raised. That's the way my family raised me based on what they were taught. So that was like, that's one of the most important qualities you can have is to be a friend and to be like a real genuine friend. So when he pulled me into this, not knowing what was going on, and then for him to do what he did, man, like that's like the worst of the worst. Like not only did you kill this man, but then you came to court, you testified against me, and you tried to help the state of North Carolina premeditated, you know, forethought with malice, try to kill me. So, I mean, it's like at one point I would want him to tell the truth. At another point, I don't want shit from him. I don't, you know what I mean? And maybe that's a spiritual thing because I've heard people say, well, until you can forgive this guy, you know what I'm saying, how can you expect the Jordans to forgive you? but at the same time, I forgave him as a child for the decisions he made as a child. I understand that the police are very good at manipulating people, and especially children. Nobody could withstand that type of pressure unless you done been through it before or you was raised that way. He wasn't raised that way, but I was, you know what I mean? But at the end of the day, he's 45 years old now, and he's been, he's had very few write-ups, not because he hasn't been doing the same type of stuff I've been doing, but because he's their guy. He's their witness, so they're going to protect him to fulfill their bargain. And so they can say, well, the reason Daniel Green isn't out yet because he's a bad guy, or he gets write-up. Of course I'm getting write-ups when you're writing me up, and then I have to go in front of your brother or your wife to say whether or not I'm guilty of it. So you have one officer charging you, then you have this officer's wife or this officer's cousin finding you guilty. You understand what I'm saying? And they're all benefiting off of this case because they're all receiving promotions and they're all, whatever they're getting because of this case and because of the fact, well, that, man, these people were criminally involved in rigging my trial and in investigating my trial and withholding facts from not only from us but from the Jordans as well. That's what they don't want to come out. If Larry Demery would not have been out that summer, if Larry Demery would have been treated like everybody else that was not involved in a drug ring operated by, people that included police, Larry Demery would not have been out to kill James Jordan. So who else responsibility does that go to? Because I had no responsibility for this man dying.
Well, at the end of the day, everyone lost in this incident. James Jordan lost his life because he decided to take a nap on the side of the road. Michael Jordan and his siblings lost their father. Dolores Jordan lost her husband. And two teenagers have spent most of their lives in prison. The prosecutor got a win under their belt, but that's about it. It's just a bunch of loss and a bunch of pain and a bunch of hurt and a bunch of tears. There are no winners in this. It's just a very, very sad situation. You presented your side of the story. I'm sure Larry has a different side of his story. Ultimately, there was no real forensic evidence in the situation, and it's really just Larry's word against yours. We'll never know what really happened in this. And
that's the thing. And that's the thing that most people are honest enough to say that. A lot of people will get in because you have people that take my side maybe just because I'm black, or maybe take my side because they maybe don't like Michael Jordan or whatever reason. And that's like with me, I'm a theosophist. So I really strive for truth. Like truth is a virtue, and I salute truth. So at the end of the day, that's all anybody could ever really say. And that's the only thing when it comes down to it, when people are trying to attribute things to me, that's the only thing I can say is, listen, anything that I don't know about this man dying came from what Larry told me, and then based on speculation and based on looking at evidence after the fact. And I can tell you 100% for certain in the documents that there's evidence that appears to be evidence that's within my files that didn't even exist until a few years ago. So these people now sitting like actually changing transcripts. There's been documents that have been changed to hide what happened. But what you just said is that at the end of the day, nobody knows. But the thing is that, I was convicted with the use of this evidence that you now know and everybody else now knows was not real forensic evidence to begin with. But that evidence was used against me in trial. I was convicted by this juror that, despite what the judge said every day, don't go conduct your own investigation, she went out to where the place, where this body was found at. She went out there and she said, well, man, for this body to be here, they had to walk this man down here. So I believe this murder happened, afterwards. Well, that's not what happened. But she violated the court's rules, and by her violating the court's rules, she was exposed to information that had absolutely nothing to do with my case, period. You see what I'm saying? And she found me guilty of that. Basically, she's saying, okay, if the body was here, that means that they had to walk this man out here and kill him. Daniel Green says that he was there when the body was exposed. Therefore, he was there involved in the murder. She created that scenario out of her own investigation as a juror.
I mean, it's just a very sad situation overall. If you could rewind time, and on that night when Larry approached you and said, hey, listen, I just killed someone in self-defense, and you could alter your actions, what would you have told Larry that night?
Honestly, I probably would have told him, now, knowing what I know now, knowing what he did and everything as far as, what he did and what he did with the trial and everything he did to me, I probably would say, okay, Larry, hold on a second, I'll be right back. Just hold on, wait here. in the car, and I'd be right back. I probably would have went inside and called the damn FBI, because I wouldn't have called the local police. I would have probably would have tried to get in contact with the FBI or somebody, and I would not have known how to do that, but I would have told my mother what was going on, and she could have got in touch with the right people. That's what I would have did. And, you know, and I know people say no snitching or whatever, man, but you can't say, like, you can't crucify, what's his name, Tashi 6ix9ine for snitching, and then you crucify me for not snitching. But in that situation where, you know, I know for a fact that this man probably did nothing to warrant him losing his life, and I know for a fact that, you know, that Larry, you know, displayed the same callousness, premeditation, whatever it was that happened. I don't know what happened, but whatever happened for him to end up killing Mr. Jordan, I know when he came to court, that was very calculated. When he testified, it was very well thought out for 2.5 years. And so, yeah, I definitely would tell it. I definitely would told if I was going to go back in time.
Well, I appreciate you sharing your story. And like I said, just a very sad situation all around. There are no winners. There's only losers. And, you know, ultimately it's up to the listener to decide what they think really happened, because ultimately the real story will never come out. So I appreciate you sharing your story.
Let me just say, I think that, the truth is there, bro. It's there. The person just has to approach it from, you know, with an open mind and with a desire for truth and not a desire to try to, to validate their own biases. You know, usually people look at something, whatever it is that they see is a reflection of themselves. When I came into this situation, I saw a reflection of myself and my belief. When he told me it was self-defense and everything that was going on, and me not cooperating with the police, I definitely, that's what I saw and believed, because that's something I done went through before, and it validated what I was already taught. So, but I thank you, man, for giving me the opportunity and for your questions, and and you give me the time to talk it out. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you for sharing your story.
All right.